Hello, everyone. My name is Jared Gingras. I'm the Managing Director and one of the analysts here at the Real Story Group, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to today's webinar on the 2016 Digital Workplace and Digital Marketing Technology Predictions. This is our 10th year doing such predictions, and it's a bit of a fun yet humbling experience for us analysts. I encourage you to go to the Real Story Group blog and check out all of the predictions we've done over the last 10 years. You can see all the crazy predictions and some really good predictions that we've made, as well as some analysis as to how we actually did with our future gazing. So I encourage you to check that out, and I'd also encourage you to be on the lookout in the next few days for our analysis of how we did with last year's predictions. We'll be publishing that shortly. So today is going to be a rather fast-paced day. We have a fantastic crowd on the line today, one of our highest attended webinars ever, and we're going to move rather quickly, so we probably won't have time for questions today, but we have a lot to cover. So with that said, we're going to get started right now. So first up, because I know we have a lot of new folks on the line, I just wanted to spend a few short minutes telling you about Real Story Group and what we do. We're fundamentally an industry analyst firm who produces research on about a little over 200 content technology vendors and the products that they produce. So fundamentally, we're producing research on an ongoing basis to help buyers make the right technology decisions. And what we do is we analyze these products as to what they're good at, and maybe more importantly for potential buyers of this technology, what they're not so good at. So people subscribe to our research on an ongoing basis to help them make the right technology decisions, as well as engage us in a variety of consulting services, particularly around doing technology audits of a current system, doing technology strategy and roadmaps exercises, looking at short, medium, and long-term goals, and very typically engaging us to help with a product and vendor selection process that we've really crafted over the last 15 years in business, a real testable methodology that we help clients go through to make sure they're making the right choice along with our research. So that's what we do. Our focus area is fairly unique, and what we like to think is very focused. We cover 8 different marketplaces that all fall under this umbrella category that we call content-based technologies. If we were to divide that sort of umbrella category up into 2 smaller categories, they really fall into 2 different areas. One is what we call digital workplace technologies, technologies that are more focused internally in an enterprise, and digital marketing technologies, those technologies for helping marketers push content to the right person at the right time outside of the enterprise. So, like I said, we've been in business for over 14 years. We have more than 3,000 customers in more than 60 countries. This is all we do. It's our passion, and we do not work for the vendors that we cover. We work solely on behalf of technology users and buyers, and quite frankly, that's something we're very proud of. This is our map, our vendor technology map, or sometimes called the subway map, that really just goes to show all of the vendors that we're covering on an ongoing basis. The good news for you as buyers is that you have a lot of options, and we're here to help you understand what vendors and products are the best fit for what it is you're trying to do. If anyone wants a copy of the map, feel free to go to our website and you can download a copy there. So as I mentioned, my name is Jared, and I'll be leading you through these predictions today, but I will say that I cannot take credit for all of the predictions that we're about to share with you in the next few minutes. These are really the brainchild of my colleagues. Tony, our founder, Apoorv and Kashyap and Teresa and Mark all contributed to these predictions that I'm going to share, and we have, like I said, a lot of fun putting these together. So I hope you enjoy. One quick disclaimer before we start. We found over the years that there's a fine line between prediction and aspiration, and so for some of the cases that we'll cite below, some of these trends we think are things that we might wish will happen. Whether they will or not, we'll see. But it's an interesting fine line that we're balancing there. And as always, subscribers, I know there's a bunch of Real Story Group subscribers on the line today. If you want a deeper discussion, more than the quick overview we're going to give today, feel free to contact Tracy, your RSG rep, and we can set up an advisory session or a private presentation for your teams on any topics you'd like to discuss. So that said, let's get into the 12 predictions for 2016. Prediction number 1. Here we're predicting that creative operations management will finally break through. So creative teams are, we often call them the unloved stepchild in enterprise marketing technology. So when it comes to the technologies that we're looking at, particularly digital marketing technologies and marketing automation technologies and digital asset management technologies, the vendors in those spaces traditionally are focused on helping you manage and deliver your finished assets, which is really important, and I don't mean to say it's not, but if you're a marketer, I think you'll agree with me that you spend a lot of your time dealing with what happens before those assets are finished, those work-in-progress files. And there's a number of technologies that have come about that are focused on helping you with that challenge of dealing with all of those work-in-progress files and helping you manage them to completion. But we think we're going to see in 2016 a newer crop of players to emerge in this space and really become critical pieces of the marketing workflow. Next, let's go to prediction number 2. Here we're talking about web content management, and we think there's going to be a real shift in 2016 from PaaS to IaaS, or platform as a service, to infrastructure as a service. In the web content management space, the cloud has had an interesting story over the last few years. There's been a few pure software as a service vendors out there where they're managing all of the services for you. But over the last few years, we've seen every web content management vendor come out and say that they do cloud. But what they're really talking about when they say they do cloud is that they're offering, in most cases, more of a platform as a service. So they're running their instance of their software on their servers for you, as well as managing the application layer on their end. So what we're seeing in 2016, or we're predicting in 2016, is that savvy customers are saying that they do not necessarily want their software companies being their hosting companies. Rather, they're more comfortable going with some more traditional infrastructure environments, such as the big names, the Amazons, the Rackspaces, the Azures, the Googles of the world. And we think that more and more web content management systems will be touting their story that they can readily run in these traditional infrastructure environments, and that more and more customers will be going that direction. So prediction number 3, wearables gain traction. So wearables are starting to proliferate themselves everywhere in the consumer space. It's rare that you don't see someone with some sort of wearable technology when you walk around these days, whether it's a watch or a Fitbit. But in the enterprises, we're seeing more and more CIOs and CMOs start to pay attention to the wearable space. And really, we're going to see this. We think we're going to see this manifest itself in 3 different ways. In 2016, we think we'll see more vendors add support for app development, particularly mobile app development. We think vendors will start offering more application and device management of wearables within their technology. And finally, we think that content publishing vendors such as web content management technologies and portal vendors start offering capabilities to specifically deliver content to these wearable devices. So this has been coming for some time, but we think it really starts to make traction here in 2016. Number 4, Another trend that we think has been talked about for quite some time, pundits have been predicting the mobile-first world for nearly a decade. But what we've seen from our customers and many of the people that we debrief on an ongoing basis as part of our research, they're telling us that they're tending to cling to more of a responsive design approach to solving the mobile challenge. And what we're seeing now, or we're predicting in 2016, is that we really reach a tipping point here. We think that as customers spend more time on mobile devices than on traditional computers, mobile has really become the default interface. So really, enterprises need to finally realize that this is happening, not only in the consumer space, but also in the digital enterprise, where the new desktop is someone's mobile device for many workers. So a mobile-specific content strategy is not an afterthought. It will become the strategic imperative in 2016. Number 5, content marketing becomes a standard feature. Now, I'm sure all of you marketers on the line today, content-oriented marketing is a critical part of your marketing mix, and rightly so. This is what everyone is thinking about today. But what we've noticed in the vendors that we are covering on an ongoing basis is that digital marketing technology tends to be really good at publishing to various channels, whether it's publishing email campaigns or publishing social campaigns or publishing web-based campaigns. But what it's not so great at is helping you run a true content marketing campaign through all of its touch points. And there has been a small marketplace of, to be quite honest, mostly smallish type cloud vendors that are starting to target this niche of helping you manage more of a content marketing oriented campaign. So our prediction is not that these will emerge, because they've already started there, but what our prediction is that the larger traditional content or marketing automation and marketing and digital marketing technology players will start to adopt these content marketing campaign management features as part of their overall platform. So as opposed to being their own distinct category of smallish vendors, we think it's going to become more mainstream in what digital marketing tools tend to offer their customers. So we'll see about that, but I think we're seeing that seeing a trend in that direction, certainly already starting to happen in 2015. Prediction number 6, social monitoring goes vertical. So we cover a number of social listening and social monitoring technologies as part of our digital marketing technology evaluations. And what we've seen over the last few years is the maturity of these listening algorithms that power these tools have been gradually improving. And that's really largely due to the trial and error that's happening between the different vendors and the enterprises that are employing them. However, what we've been hearing from our customers over and over again is that social monitoring works better when you can apply greater industry context to your behavior and expectations that you're listening for. So what we're predicting in 2016 is that we'll see a rise of vertical-specific social monitoring tools. So think about if you're in the financial services space, we think we'll see a rise of tools that are very much in tune for the key words and phrases that you need to be aware of when you're in that particular vertical. Likewise, we're seeing a lot of traction in the pharma space and retail, and very different use cases and very different terminology that most organizations are looking for, and certain sentiments that they're looking to pull out of all the noise. So certainly this is something that we expect to see arising in 2016. Next up is prediction number 7, and this prediction is around digital asset management, and we're predicting that we're going to see the major digital asset management tools out there flail even more than they are at the moment. And what does this mean? So the traditional enterprise DAM vendors are, without a doubt, at this moment in time, lagging behind some newer, what we're calling born digital players that have much more modern approaches to the cloud and have built much more modern interfaces that are really resonating in the marketplace. You know, a lot of the smaller vendors are evolving really quickly and are really challenging the bigger players out there who are traditionally employed a traditional install within an enterprise, and these large vendors are really struggling to get their cloud stories together. And when put head to head against these smaller, more nimble cloud-based offerings from some of these born digital solutions, buyers are really tending to look down on these larger vendors, and they're really struggling to catch up. Do I think they're going to just go away and give up on this challenge? Absolutely not. I think they will adapt in order to survive. It's just that we're in a period of flailing right now that's causing some pain for some buyers of the traditional products. So this is an ever-changing marketplace. There's certainly competition is good in this case, and we're seeing improvements happen. It's just how quickly will that happen for some of these major DAM players. Next up is prediction number 8. And here we're predicting a moment of truth for Box. So for those of you who don't know, in the last year we've seen Box IPO, and we've seen their stock surge up and then come crashing back down to earth. And the question that we have for them is, what does this company want to be when it grows up? And I think one of the biggest, or maybe the most fundamental challenge that's facing Box is that file sharing, which is their prime use case. It's really a feature, not necessarily an application. And what our subscribers and customers are all telling us is that they want polished applications, so things like contract management, but they also want lower level services like file syncing and some basic file sharing. So what we've seen from Box is that they've sort of flirted with both options, and they've kind of gone, in some cases they're really touting their core features and as a tool set for you to build on, and in some cases they're saying, well, we have some applications that we can provide. And what we're predicting here is, now that they've gone public, we think their investors are going to force it to choose one direction or the other, and that's going to be interesting because, like I said, our customers are really looking for both, and we'll see how the market takes them there, but it's certainly a critical time for their future direction. Next up, number 9, and this is that SharePoint 2016 on-premise will experience an adoption lag. All right, I confess this is probably our easiest prediction of the bunch, and maybe it's a little too easy. Maybe we didn't go too far out on a limb here. But in previous upgrades with SharePoint, it took 6 to 10 quarters for new versions of the SharePoint to reach a critical mass, and we certainly don't see that changing with the release of the on-premise version of 2016 this year. As always, we think that the most savvy customers will wait for the all-important integrator channel to get more experience on the new version. That's usually a good signal that it's safe to move. I think this sort of cycle that we've always seen with SharePoint is not going to speed up in 2016. If anything, it'll continue to lag and wait for a critical mass of users to go before other enterprises follow. Prediction number 10 is maybe one of my favorites of the bunch. It's sort of an interesting one that we're seeing happen in reality, but maybe the moniker we're giving here as the rise of the Chief Digital Workplace Officer is a little bit future looking and maybe a little bit more predictive than in some of the other cases of our predictions. in the past few years, we've certainly seen a rise of the chief digital officer in many organizations, particularly when it came to thinking about the end consumers of experiences of many organizations and many product offerings that they're putting out there. But what we're seeing is the digital workplace, so inside the enterprise, is really presenting very similar challenges to what they're experiencing on more of an external customer basis. And enterprises are really struggle to align their traditional intranets, their internal social networks, their portals, their knowledge management systems, and as many organizations are really realizing that this is a strategic differentiator to really put an emphasis on this employee experience, and thus we expect someone within the enterprise to be elevated to a chief digital workplace officer to truly own that employee experience. And we're seeing this have a marked effect on efficiency within enterprises, as well as just increasing the overall employee experience when it comes to retention and hiring and just overall satisfaction of employees across the board. So it's a really important role that many savvy enterprises are investing in quite heavily and thinking about all the challenges that come with that. So be on the lookout for the CDWO. And if there are any CDWOs on the call, I'd love to hear from you. Feel free to reach out and tell us your experiences. Next up, number 11. That is that software as a service will become the default model for social collaboration technologies in 2016. So again, talking about the digital workplace, most enterprises have traditionally been a little afraid to put their internal collaboration conversations and data in the cloud. Rather, they're much more apt to want to keep that close to the vest and go with more traditional installation models for social collaboration. But what we're seeing is that vendors are really pushing multi-tenant SaaS solutions that have pricing models that are, quite honestly, too attractive to ignore. And one of the big players there is certainly Microsoft, and Microsoft is coming to play with their Office 365 that we'll talk about more in a second. But that's becoming more and more popular. People are becoming used to working within the cloud, and we think that as enterprises explore that as an option, they'll look at their other many options that are available to them and start to bring more SaaS models in-house and be more comfortable doing that. The good news is that there are a lot of options out there today. We've seen a lot of what I'll call more point solutions. There are many applications that are really good at gamification, many applications that are good at social Q&A or innovation ideation management, and those solutions exist in the SaaS world and are there's a lot of competition, so that's also good for buyers. But creating that cohesive user experience for the employee is going to be the next big challenge when it's difficult to get all these services from one single vendor. So again, putting a little bit of importance to that CDWO role and thinking about all the options that you have out there, particularly from a SaaS perspective today. And finally, number 12, we are predicting in 2016 an Office 365 user shock. So as I mentioned, Microsoft is certainly following that SaaS-first model with Office 365, but what we're seeing and what we predict that we'll continue to see in 2016 is that many customers are going to be surprised at what they're getting from Microsoft in particular. So Microsoft is traditionally a very staid, predictable vendor. And with Office 365, we think that they're going to be a little bit more willing to change faster. So So things like, we've seen already, things like Microsoft willing to change the icons in Office 365. We've seen varying support for things like Macs. We've seen services added, then scrapped a few months later. And, for some technology vendors, that's sort of the norm. But for Microsoft, this is not the SharePoint and Yammer you've grown up with. And for some, this is a good thing. We think the new innovation is going to be welcome in many enterprises. But in certain enterprises, that kind of surprise is not what the enterprise managers are looking for. They're looking for consistency and predictability, and we think that with Office 365, expectations will need to be reset, and there'll be a bit of frustration and user dislocation when it comes to Office 365 in the near future. So that was a quick overview of the 12 predictions. Just to recap, we think creative operations management will break through. We think when it comes to cloud web content management, we'll see a transition from PaaS to IaaS, or platform as a service, to infrastructure as a service. We think wearables will gain traction. We think mobile first will finally arrive. We think content marketing will become a standard feature in digital marketing technology. We think social monitoring will tend to trend towards a vertical approach. We think we'll see major digital asset management players flail while smaller, more nimble players gain more traction. We think it's the time for a moment of truth for Box in which direction they would like to proceed, whether it's more feature-based or application-based. We think there'll be a lag with the adoption of on-premise SharePoint 2016. We think 2016 will bring about the new role of the Chief Digital Workplace Officer. We think SaaS will become the default model for social collaboration technology, and we think there'll be quite a bit of user shock when it comes to the online versions of Office 365. And so I'll wrap up with just a few points here around our subscribers that are on the line. If you want to read the full advisory paper that goes into each of these predictions in more detail, just log on to your account and download it in the library. In addition, as I mentioned at the outset, if you'd like a deeper dive advisory call, as always, you can just reach out to Tracy, and her email is here, as I'm sure you have it in your contact base as well. But just feel free to reach out to her at any time and schedule a one-on-one call. We'd be happy to do that. And for those of you on the line that are new to Real Story Group and want more information about the research services that we offer, the tools that we offer in terms of our custom shortlist building tools, our vendor comparison tools, our head-to-head evaluation deep dives, as well as all of our library of content and research that's available to subscribers, feel free to contact me or my colleague Scott Dill at sdill@realstorygroup.com. I'd be happy to chat with you and walk you through the services. And as always, at any time, you can always get a free vendor evaluation from any of the research streams that we cover at realstorygroup.com/sample. So I appreciate all of you taking some time out of your day today. Feel free to take to Twitter now, use the hashtag RSGWebinar if you can, and let us know what you think. We'd be happy to hear your predictions for 2016, as well as which predictions you think would have the best chance of being right, and which predictions you think we're kind of off the mark on. But as always, we welcome any feedback. Feel free to contact us directly or do so in social media. And with that, I thank you all for attending and wish you happy holidays and a great end of 2015 and all the best in 2016. Thank you. Have a good day.